Yeah, I just got asked to do this talk on Monday, so I didn't really have anything ready. I didn't make a slideshow, but I have a notebook. What is that? That's not on my screen. Yeah, that's not my screen. Anyway, I don't need it now. But I wanted to talk about quite a few packages. You can see all the top blocks of usings are packages. Oh, not all. There's a few in there that I don't work on. But in JuliaGeo and with some new Makie tools, we've been working for a long time, but especially in the last year to try and make things very composable and make all the packages work together. So we've made quite a few small packages that link everything. And that's kind of what I want to demonstrate more than just one package, how they connect together to make workflows that you can ad hoc make into use for geospatial work. And that includes Tyler.jl and yeah. A bit of both. So some of them provide interfaces, but some of them just provide a shared object. So there's a few packages that just provide an object that everyone can use and pass around and you know what it is. Some of them are like 50-line packages, but it makes it very easy to do this, stringing everything together without dependency. Yeah, so I'll get into it. Okay, so the first two I'm going to talk about are tileproviders.jl and Tyler. So we had a conference in New York a few months ago, and there were a bunch of Makie people there, and Simon was there, and there were a bunch of JuliaGeo people there. So we spent the time making a few packages, and we abstracted out the tile servers from Leaflet. And I don't know if you all know, so a lot of online mapping tools work by sharing just like square image tiles at different zoom levels. And there's just lots of different providers that you can use. So tile providers hooks into that, and Tyler.jl will show them in Makie. And as a layer in the plot. So you can use it as a base layer for like a geospatial workflow to have some kind of map underneath what you're doing is often very useful. And then you'll see that. So I'll run this one. Yeah, there we go. Oh, this is going to depend on my internet. I don't know how good EduRun is in here. It's there? Okay. Not very fast though. I'm going to be doing lots of this. So this will be there. It's normally good. So we should be able to just zoom in like, yeah, that's okay. Yeah. So basically we made a Google Earth clone as a layer in Makie without the 3D stuff, but we could add the 3D stuff as well, which would be fun. And put this stuff on the globe, but this is just the Google Earth satellite layer map. There's that, but there's other layers like you can use that's the same one. I have this other one that Anshul pointed out. We can use other planets as well. So it's not loading. Yeah, NASA will be out, I think. I have nothing now. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'll just use it. So yeah, you get Mars. Mars. Yeah. So we've also been looking at how to use this to load like chunk data while we're doing like big, larger than memory files that we can also use a kind of tiling paradigm to zoom into and look around. There's also things like CartoDB, like more stylized map tile layers. Oh, there's a zoom problem. I'll just load that in. We need to make it stabilize the aspect ratio. Okay. Okay. So now, like, the idea is to not just use tile. Tile is like a base layer for doing other things. So we need to plot things over the top of tile and use it in some multi-layered interactive way. And we have this package in JuliaGeo called GeoInterface. And the idea of it is that it can connect, you can have a dependency on GeoInterface and it connects you to the rest of the Julia ecosystem without depending on those packages. So it's like 8 or 10 different packages that have different kinds of spatial geometries or reprojections of them or operations on them. So with Geos and JSON and GDAL and that mostly works now. We even have a module level convert function, so you can convert just whole groups of objects between module types. And that's also geometry basics. It's depends on it as well, which is great. So it can just hook into the Makie ecosystem with very little friction. So I have this hurricane data set, which is all the observations of all the historical hurricanes in the world. So there's like 700,000 of them or something. Okay. Yeah, and so I'll load those here I'm just converting them to a multi-point object. So we have a geo interface. It has internal wrappers that you can use to pack things together. We also, with Tyler, everything is in Web Mercator, which is this like mostly Google projection for the web. So we have to translate everything out of the standard lat long into Web Mercator. And to do that, we have this very small package here, format types I wrote a few years ago, that just wraps projection objects to tell you what they are. So instead of it being a raw string you can't dispatch on, it's a wrapped object or just a number. So, and you can use any of those and you can convert between them using GDAL if you load it. With a little bit of piracy to do that. So I'm going to reproject these points into Web Mercator and it'll reproject any objects now. And I'm going to put them back in the data frame and just calculate it for the other things in the data frame. Next package I want to talk about is Makie Draw. This is a little drawing utility. I also started writing in the Azores and I've been using for some of my other work. I have some video. So just the other day on the Makie Slack channel, someone posted that they're already using it for their work that I don't totally understand, some kind of flow dynamics, but it just lets you edit any kind of matrix that you can plot in Makie. So he's editing, they made some mistake with the masking in the experiment, I don't know, and he's just editing the sides of it out or something. You explain what it is, but I still don't understand. And this is me using the same tool in my simulation package dynamic grids. So running a simulation and drawing into one of the inputs of the simulation with Makie. So you can just use it as a layer in other things for your work. It also draws, so it draws, I'll have to, yeah, it does drawing of like painting like that, like a basic paint thing, but it also would draw polygons, so lines, polygons, points, and other geometries. That's what I'm going to use in this session. So we have a canvas layer. The idea with Makie Draw is like standing on this idea of just layering things in Makie. You make a canvas for one kind of object, like a painting canvas or a polygon canvas or a line canvas, and you can just layer them over the top of each other. And you can actually add multiple canvases to the one Mackie window and drop down and select independent. But I think I didn't actually set that up in this case. So display Mackie again. Yeah, display file. Where am I? Okay, there we go. Point canvas. There we go. So, and you can see, Mackie, it's just amazing. You can just throw 1 million points at it, 700,000 points at it, and then just fly. You can see this is all the paths of all the cyclones. And also, this package, you can see down here, we have some data. So I'm actually loading the table, a data frame, where we can load a feature collection and share the data for each point. So I can go in and look at a particular hurricane for this one, and I can move the points around. So it's like, yeah, tools for faking science. I can move the points around, and I can also, this one never got named, right? So we can call it, I looked it up, there's never been a Hurricane Tyler. So now in 2004, in the Indian Ocean, yeah. Yeah. So you can do this, and you can edit all of these points, and it's all tables.jl compatible. So you can write it to a CSV, you'll save it back to the data frame. It's also geo-interface compatible, so you can write it with GeoJSON or some other package just back to a JSON collection. So it gives you a way of editing. You can edit any kind of shapefile like this over the top of a map to fit it to some features underneath or some kind of analysis you need to do. I'm going a little bit fast. Yeah, you can see we can just make a data frame from that canvas, and that will contain the changes that I've made in the interface. I really love these interfaces these days. It's so little code to make all this work together. And also write a JSON file just with one line and the canvas as the input. Okay, so next, I'm going to group all those points by the hurricane that they're part of and turn them into lines. Data frames. And again, make a new Tyler instance. Okay, so now we have them as geometries, like lines, connecting them all. I found this weird hurricane here that once went through England. It took like this weird left turn. I thought if it I could just make it move over here. Let me fuck that. Okay, there we go. Terrible live demonstration to wait fail. Yeah, I was thinking we could instead. Like, I don't think it did that, right? I think it came over here and it's the only hurricane that ever got to Union. And I find it quite amazing that there's that many points, and I haven't optimized this at all. It's just searching through all the points to find the click position. Like it just goes, okay, there's 700,000 of those. Which one am I closest to? And then it's just instant, there's not really any way. Yeah, so it seems you can throw, maybe if people have even bigger problems in this, it will start to need some optimization, but it seems you can handle really big data sets pretty easily. All right. Oh, now I was going to use, another thing I was going to do is, because we have this, the next package I'm going to show lets you use the window of things. So I'm just going to set the window of Tyler now to be just these Atlantic Ocean hurricanes. And then the next package I'm going to look at is extents.jl. So the JuliaGeo package, maybe it's not even, it's so unimportant, it's not even listed in, oh no, maybe it's my package. Oh, that's wrong. Somewhere there. Anyway, whatever. It's a tiny package. Basically, all that it does is defines one object. It's essentially just a name tuple, but it's a name tuple that has a wrapper that identifies it as being the extent of something. And it can only contain tuples of, it's a name tuple of tuples of bounds of things, but they could be in the time dimension or something as well. But it gives us something that we can dispatch on and use between packages to say, like, this is the area of something. So we've built that into Tyler and all of our geo interface. So yeah, I can define one like this, or I can get one from Tyler. So that's the extent, the window that I just left over the Atlantic Ocean in the Web Mercator projection, which is pretty hard to understand. I guess in meters or something. But I can use that projection, that extent, in my other package, rasters.jl, to rasterize these shape files to that particular extent. So I can use Tyler as like a selection tool for spatial areas. So I can run that rasterization, and the error message is not true. They went mixed. That's the bug. Yeah. So if you can see here, I've just used here rasterize the hurricanes to Tyler. That just means to whatever Tyler is showing now, and it will just rasterize that area. So any of these objects, you can just use them as an extent, and it will call extents.extent on that and know how big it is. And then the inverse, you can make a new Tyler window and say, Tyler, this isn't actually merged yet. Half of these things aren't merged. You don't try it at home, it doesn't work. Or they're not even off my computer yet. But yeah, so we can use a raster, that raster we've just made, to set the new extent of Tyler and make a new window. So should be loading Google Earth underneath as well. You can see we've just rasterized this square of the hurricanes. It works better with Google. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I'm finding that Makie gives us this toolkit of just making arbitrary workflows by layering things together, by adding a widget or two to do different kinds of work. So I should have scripted it up, but we could actually use this. We could edit this heat map in Makie Draw, and that would just work. But I didn't have time to code that. Yeah. And yeah, thanks to Anshul for making these plot recipes. That only happened in the last few months for rasters. Yeah, that's basically all I've put together. I don't know how far into the talk I am. I have time. So maybe if you want to, yeah, if people have some questions or.
So my question would be, how production ready this is?
Yeah, no, it's not at all. But some of it is, like a lot of the geo interface stuff is pretty solid now. Rasters.jl is very production ready and people use it everywhere, but these connections are not yet. There's a lot of PRs. You can imagine that trying to make this many packages work together, you end up with little PRs everywhere that I forget about. So I just saw then on GeoJSON, the PR to make it compatible is not merged yet. It's just some small thing. So it's at the moment there is some case-by-case problems. We had a project with Julia Hub for about a year trying to make all these things better, but that's stopped now. And everyone working on it also works full time, so it's like quite slow to get it all.
Like, when do you expect that maybe not all this, but like the core of this would be at the level where I can tell my students, if you want to do plotting for math, go there and there are some tutorials and this is already stable and you can use it.
Yeah, so the keen students who do it now, who can program, and the others, I imagine it would be quite stable and nice to use in a year. And like all of these changes will work that I've had in this presentation will be in the next few weeks, I imagine. But yeah, there are a bunch of rough edges and things like you can see here, like Tyler's using this internal WebMakeda thing instead of the proper Forge WebMakeda, and I'm not doing the conversion. And you have to put that in to get the right projection instead of just getting it from the raster, even though the raster knows its projection. So there are some little links like that that I've hacked in this talk to make it look slicker than it is. And say this, I used a subset of the hurricanes that didn't wrap the lines around 180. But if you use the ones that do wrap, you get, plotting errors where it will wrap around the edge. So yeah, I've lied to you. But I imagine in a year it will be good. Yeah, 6 months.
Hi. Yeah. Thank you for the talk. It's very nice to see how much the geo packages have been advancing, Julia. I have two short questions. I have not tried your library, but I'm wondering how easy is to export the images, the interactive images to static images. Because I tried with other libraries and I always facing several issues. Even though they have the attributes, sometimes they don't work. Or yeah,
Like this, you would want to, like essentially that's just Makie. Like, would that just work? What specifically?
I usually do all the data analysis in Julia, and then I moved to Python, and I was doing some interactive, but not in Makie, in plots like GL. And also I'm having some issues with when I'm exporting to HTML. So sometimes it doesn't work for me at least. So, but I'm not with Makie.
To HTML.
HTML, yeah.
Okay, not with Makie. Yeah, I guess that really heavily depends then on what you export to HTML. If you're using another plotting library.
Yeah, I'm using that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's their job then, and if it doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah, I know, but like, I'm new to Makie. That's and I'm trying just for the first time Makie, and I just jumped directly. So that's my question. Like how easy it is, and if it's really working.
For example, export this plot as a HTML file.
Yeah, in HTML, and yeah.
It's possible with WebGL Makie, but you will lose the interactivity because it's implemented in Julia. So it will need to call back to Julia to actually zoom around and download these tiles. And that means you need a running Julia process. But you can export an offline version and everything that is written in JavaScript will stay interactive. But right now, for example, with Tyler and the zooming, it's all implemented in Julia, so you will lose that. But if you're like use a 3D camera, for example, the 3D camera is written in JavaScript, then you can rotate in the exported version and look at it. But yeah, those are the constraints.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was facing that, so I would do, okay, the static image for now and then, all right. Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
but there's work being done on this. So I hope it gets better in the next year in Makie, the HTML export.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, just the plot you can export quite easily.
Sometimes doesn't work.
Oh.
And I can have a question. Do you think we could use this to basically replicate what James showed yesterday with the data shader? And could you just sum up all of the hurricane lines on the fly?
Yeah, so I was showing this hurricane line. Yeah, it was clearly a bad plot from his perspective, just plotting all the points over the top of each other.
Yeah, but I mean, here you could essentially, instead of using the maximum for your visualization, you could use a sum? Just sum up all of the points or the number of points, and then you just
Yeah,
have that, and then you would need that for different layers.
we could just you could just use the rasterization in rasters to do the rasterizing of the points. It's very far, but it's not abstracted for general use in Makie, but it could be. But yeah, so what instead of that showing the points and then rasterizing, we could have been rasterizing like this on the fly at a higher resolution as using Vim. Yeah, that would be nice, I guess. Because with the maybe I'll go back.
You mean like the data shader presentation? From yesterday?
Yeah, like that would be nicer for things like this. There's some interesting, you get these artifacts with Makie with points.
So Restos actually already basically has all the functionality of most of the functionality that you need for data shader.
Well, it has rasterization. The point rasterization isn't that fast, but the line rasterization is very, very fast. No. If you wanted to do it, like, because he was also doing it with line, and it will do that. Yeah, so you would have very fast with records. Okay. If you're just taking a subset of that, that would be no noticeable lag to rasterize even that many lines, I don't think. But you were saying maybe we should do that on the GPU. I'm not sure. Maybe that's better. But you notice with Makie, there's these weird black clouds you get when you zoom out. So there's something about the point aggregation doesn't totally work always. See those black clouds? And just the way that it combined. It could be better to use a data shader. What's the black cloud, Simon?
It's confidential.
Taking over my plot. Any other questions?
So one use case I've had people ask me for, and I've always said no to this, is if you look at the map that you have right now, right, it's got a bunch of labels and stuff, and they often want to plot like spatialized data on top of those labels. So you get this idea that, oh, South Africa is here, this country is here, and this city is here. And so I guess the idea is you can orient yourself in some way. So do you have any thoughts on what a good interface for that might be? You know, how you might show data? Would you want to plot the labels above the data? How would you handle like
Putting
occlusion
it
and
on
things
top.
like this?
So these could be, yeah. So yeah, the reason these are not on the plot is so you can edit them.
Oh, no. I mean, okay, so if you zoom in.
Yeah, you mean as like a little hover or?
No. Okay, so you see all these country labels, right?
Yeah.
And if you zoom in, yeah. So imagine I have a raster, which I want to plot on top of that. Yeah. So what would you think a good user interface might be for something like that so that you don't, because, you know, if I'm plotting a raster on top of this, obviously I get a lot of color mixing, and if I have opacity, then it's like hard to read and things like this.
So you want to have the labels, yeah, so we could be using vector labels or like actual fonts instead of, this is just built into the images. This is like the old school way of doing tiles. It's simple to do, but like modern tools have a, like modern Google Maps, the fonts are separate, and it would be nice if they were separate, and you could like turn off the labels or something like you can do in Google, or use them somehow. I actually do find that frustrating. Often when I put over the top of something, I want to know the name of the country and you can't see it. Yeah, but I don't know how to do it.
No questions, comments?